ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिः रेजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैर्तुष्टुवां सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति नः इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नः तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यो अन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाच इमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयति अखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांष्टहस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं लसतु श्रीमदानन्दतीर्थेन्दुर्नो हृदम्बरे यद्वचश्चन्द्रिका स्वान्तसन्तापं विनिकृन्तति पदवाक्यप्रमाणज्ञान् प्रणम्य शिरसा गुरून् व्याकरिष्ये यथाभूतं विष्णुतत्त्वविनिर्णयम्. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to folks who have joined in for the Gita Chinthana Chapter 4, Part B. And what can be more auspicious than doing this in the Guru Purnima, Vedavyasa Purnima celebrations today? And what is going on? Krishna, who is Vedavyasa himself, and Vedavyasa documents what Krishna spoke to Arjuna. So, this is such an auspicious occasion for us to contemplate on Chapter 4, Part B. So I'm going to hand over the forum to G.V. Srinivasan to lead us through the rest of the session. Over to you, G.V. G.V., we can't hear you.
How about now?
Yeah, that's fine, G.V. Yeah.
Okay, great. So let me share the slides. Okay, you can see the slide all right, in addition to my hearing.
Yeah, all good. All good.
All right. So thank you, Madhusudan ji. So we are on to the part B of the chapter 4 in Bhagavad Gita, Jnana Yoga. So today, being auspicious day, as Madhusudan ji said, is Guru Purnima. So we will first offer our salutations to our acharyas and to Vedavyasa, Vyasaya, Bhavanashaya, Srishaya, Gunarashaya, Siddhaya, Suddha, Vidhyaya, Madhvaya cha Namo Namaha. So my humble obeisance to all the gurus and acharyas and to Vedavyasa. So, and then to my fellow Adhyatma bandhus in this forum. So we are in session 2. So we have originally planned to do this chapter this chapter 4 over 3 sessions. We had already done 1 session. So today we are on to the session 2 or the part B. And then we will, next month, end of August, we will have session 3. So in the last one, so we basically gave an introduction to this chapter, and then talked about, and Madhusudan ji and Venkatesh ji talked about the characteristics of Krishna, how he is different, and his purpose behind avatars, and why his avatars are special, and his various characteristics and all the functions that he does. So we will recap that one again today so that we have a continuity to today's forum. So I will provide that one. Last time itself it took more than an hour and a half, so I will try to do it in 10 to 15 minutes. And then I will reorient you all. And then in today's talks, it is split over into 3 talks. So Sri Prakashji will talk about Karma Swarupa. And then Srimati Neetaji will talk about the various types of karma offered as yajna. So she will take us through that one. Then all this karma is jnana upaya. Basically, it leads us to jnana. And then from then on to apraksha jnana and moksha and everything. So Sureshji will talk about the importance of this jnana that is obtained through performance of this nishkama karma, and then how it will help us to get to the moksha. So Sri Sureshji will talk us that with that, the chapter concludes. So in the next session, we will have a guest lecture. So I have requested Sri Jai Krishna ji to offer that guest lecture to this forum. So I want to briefly introduce him. So I also asked him to come and he has come. So Jai Krishna ji, if you can come on the video and wave. Oh, I think he was here.
Yes.
And
I think the host has
probably
to
stepped.
switch it on. The host has asked, okay, start my video. There you go. Let me see. There you go.
There you go. Okay. So see, Jai Krishna ji has been kind of teaching like like this modern Gurukula in the Washington D.C. area for the past more than 20 years. So he's been doing Upanishad, Gita, and then Brahma Sutras and all those things. Prasthanatrayas he's been doing. So he has also written 4 books on Upanishad so far. So and the more to come. So he's also hosting an online discussion group called Vadavadi, where you can see some spirited discussion between the 3 darshanas, Advaita Darshana and Vishistadvaita Darshana and Tattvavada Darshana. So he's been hosting and moderating that group.
GVG, sorry for interrupting. Can I request everybody to mute, please? Those who are not speaking, we're hearing some noises in the background. Thank you. Sorry, GVG.
So, I also asked him to come so that to kind of check out what's going on here so that, he can tune himself as to what he wants to tell us next time. So, Jai Krishna ji, thank you for taking the time and then being with us today. Okay. So with that, so let me kind of run through a kind of express version of a recap. So the chapter 4 starts with Krishna, say Bhagavan Uvacha, and then so talking about, so telling Arjuna that this is whatever he's been teaching him since Asocana and Asocastvam. So he's been saying, he wanted to tell Arjuna that he's not utilizing the vulnerability of Arjuna in the battlefield and putting his opinion or asking him to fight because Krishna wanted the war. It's not that. What Krishna is saying that is whatever is been telling him is what is being said in the Apaurusha Vedas and then later handed down from generation to generation. And that he's not saying anything new. He's not giving his opinion. He is merely giving the opinions that is in the Sanatana Dharma. And he himself says that he taught that one to Vivaswan in the beginning. And then from Vivaswan to Vaivasvata Manu, from whom this Manvantara starts, then Manvantara is named after him. And then from him to his son, and then so on. So this Sanatana Dharma has been kind of handed down from generation to generation. But then over time, it got eroded, some of it lost. So Krishna is saying that, hey, I am the one who taught this one to Vivaswan in the beginning. So, and I am telling you this one now because over time it is kind of lost and you yourself are getting confused because of that. So I am telling you what is says for you and what is prescribed in the Shastra. And that is what brings you a kind of says. So that is these 3 verses. He is basically to talk that, and then he is actually calling the this Proktavan Aham Avyayam. So this Shastra is the Avayam, imperishable, indestructible, but gets this, eroded over time, and he needs to kind of bring it back again. So that is so with that, then Arjuna is kind of asking a kind of question at this time, saying that, hey, hold on, Krishna, how is it that you were just born few days ahead of me in this Janma, and then you are saying that you taught this one thousands of years ago in the beginning of Manvantara to Vivaswan and all. How is that possible? I know I can't remember all of that at that time and everything. But you are claiming that you know that you have did this from before. How am I to know? At the surface, that seems to be the Arjuna's question, but the Arjuna's question is more deeper than this. Because Up until then, Krishna had already indicated that he is different than others. In fact, he is in a different category altogether. Certain things that he claims that he has done or he's capable of, no human being would be able to do. And he is in a different category, all of it. He's saying, even in chapter 2, talking about Sita Prajna, he's saying Sita Prajnas are fixed their mind in him, that is in Krishna, that is in me, and knowing Krishna as the Supreme. See, that is different. And also, if he says, Uddidayu ime lokaha, right? He's saying, if I don't do the work, these worlds will collapse, and I become responsible for the destruction of the humankind. See, again, this is something like a big responsibility that no human can do, right? And he's saying, Maya sarvani karmani sanyasya, dedicate all the work unto me. So that means he is something supreme than anybody else. And also, eme matamadam nishtam, right? And then he's talking about my mata. So being his teachings and everything, being superior and all those. So Arjuna didn't stop Krishna at that time because, that was not the right time or whatever. But this time when even the chronology itself is suffers, it's kind of too much. So Arjuna has to kind of stop Krishna and tell him, hey, Krishna, you keep to be claiming things, extraordinary things. How is it possible, right? Who are you? So now Arjuna kind of stops him and then asks him. And it is also better to know these things from Krishna's mouth himself, because he himself is there, has come down as Bhagavan, rather than hearing it from somebody else. Let us know from Krishna himself. So with that view, Arjuna has asked this question with much more depth in the kind of background than what it appears to be on the surface. So with that, Krishna starts answering Bhagavan Uvacha. He's saying, Bahuni meteva kitani janmani tavacha Arjuna anyaham veta sarvani natvam veta parantapa. So Krishna starts distinguishing, saying that, yes, I have had many births and you have had many births, right? And then as our souls are both you and me are all infinite. But you know only in this birth, whatever that is happening to you and what has happened to you, you don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. And you don't know about yourself completely. So with that, but I know all of your prior births. I know who you are, your Swarupa, and I know even what is going to happen to you in the future. And I have taken many avatars, or we don't want to call it as birth. He has taken many bodies and many avatars, and he knows every one of them from the beginning. So that is the difference between. So he is kind of establishing himself as that, yes, I am different than you. In the next verses, he comes out and says, he builds up more on that one as to how he is different. Ajoapi, sanna avyayatma, bhutanam, Ishwaro api. So he is saying clearly, Bhutanam Ishwaraha, I am the kind of superior, I am the Lord of all. And then in terms of talking about birth and all those things, he said that, hey, I am different. Okay. He is even saying that Ajaha, Ja means born, Ajaha, I am not born. So I am not born like you having a body and all those things and coming out of an garbha and all those things. I am special. So I manifest at my will and using Prakritim Swam Adhishtaya. I'm using Prakriti, the Durga Devi, as an Adhishtana, and then even she is under my control. The Prakriti is under my control. I use all of that to manifest my Rupas at that time. So that is the difference between you and me. Not only in that one, in so many ways we are different, especially when it comes to avatara or this body. So that is what he's talking about in here. So then what is the purpose? Then why does he take this form and everything come down here? He could have been just happily sitting there in kind of Vaikuntha or whatever. No, he has come down there with one purpose of establishing Dharma. Dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. So whenever this Dharma is reduced, I am kind of manifesting myself from time to time, so that to establish Dharma and also be a role model, and then to show to people like Rama, Krishna, all those avatars as to how the humans should kind of conduct oneself, how one should emulate. So to have to also be there and write here and show it, be here and then show it to me kind of stuff. So just for those purposes, he comes down for humankind. So, okay, all of this, but then what is the benefit to human being like me or others or even Arjuna and everything to know all of these things? Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. Because if you do Krishna's janma and karma, whatever the leelas or all the things that he does and everything, evam yo veti tattvataha. Tattvataha here in Mansurinji talked about it as what Tattvavada preaches. So you have to know it that way. The other one is Tattvata in here is by knowing, even it is impossible to know Bhagavan's qualities and all these things to the fullest extent. Even Lakshmi Devi doesn't know, right? So with that thing, Tattvata means to our how much ever capability, capacity that we have, to that extent we should try to know about his janma and then karma, right? That is what it means. But then the benefit is if we do this, right? When tattva, they have punarjanmana vidyate, so we will not be born again. Mameti so Arjuna, right? And then they will reach me, that is kind of Vaikuntha. And then in the kind of next one also saying Madbhava Magataha, right? So that is the benefit of knowing these things and hence need to know. So hence Arjuna asked, right? So that is what it is. Okay, and then not everybody seems to be kind of on that path and then want to know and everything. How about some people who are just content with just the material benefits, right? That's what they want and everything. Not everybody approaches the Lord in the same way. For that, the Lord says that, right? Yatha mam prapatyante tam sateva bhajamaham. However they approach me and want that one, that I will give it to them, right? If and then some people are after kakshata karmanam siddhim yajante yadeva shupram himanishe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. There are some people who are after some low-hanging, very temporary kind of fruits, right? They seem to be content with that. But wherein some, they want a bigger phala like a moksha, right? So you have different varieties of people wanting different things. Some after small, temporary, some are after big and everlasting. That is what they are after. Venkatesh ji talked about these slokas in the last time. He gave an example of somebody working for a tip, and then wherein somebody is working for a more permanent employment with promotion and everything. They approach their jobs differently. So similarly, so he gave a very nice example. I just wanted to kind of bring it back and then say that one again. So the same thing like that. So if somebody who wants to moksha is like they have to put in a lot more effort over longer time, but then the payoff is also greater. But all of it comes from Bhagavan, from himself. Even the small ones, only he has to give because he is the only independent being. So why are these people are different in approaching God differently with different attitudes? And then why are people different? So for that, Krishna says that Chaturvarnyamaya Srishtam Gunakarma Vibhagashaha. So he is talking about this Chaturvarnyam. So here, not Varnam, is not talking about Varnam. Varnam is Swabhava. So we are talking about here, he is showing this true color, that is his true nature, that is Swabhava. We are not talking about Swabhava. We are talking about Swabhava here, but then the Swabhava itself is not created by Krishna, but it is a grouping of it and its associated job functions, and it is all managed by him. In that way, he is kind of karta, okay? But it is all, he manages all of this one, but he himself is not the creator. He is not the creator of the varna, but it is the grouping of it he manages. So in this one, so Venkatesh, these are all the wonderful graphics that Venkatesh came up with and then showed us last time. I just want to put it back again to kind of bring you back again. So once in the blue are the dominant with the satvika qualities, the ones in the black are dominant on the tamasa, ones in the red, dark, and rajasa. But then where the arrow shows, like up to Mukti Yogya, so those, all the jivas up until then are eligible to go to moksha. Beyond that, sorry, they are not going. Okay, but within the that one, he also showed in a smaller box in here called BKVS, Brahmana, Kshatriyas, Vaishya, and Shudra. This is not the this is not the jati. This is like an intrinsic nature, that is Varna itself, right? So within that one, when they're all made up of the trigunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, but it is a proportion of it may vary from 1 to 1, but they're all going to moksha. But then depending on which guna dominates in one or more in that one, they tend to kind of seek some functions that will appropriate that one, right? So for example, that is what those whatever the that innate nature to that natural affinity to do certain karmas. So that is what is kind of mapped over in here, because Krishna says, as Krishna later says, Sagajam karma kaunteya. Whatever comes to you naturally, Sagajam karma kaunteya, sir, doshamapi, not tajet. Even if it is done improperly, don't leave it, because that is what is natural to you. So that is what is kind of shown in here. Again, all of these things is managed by Krishna. He's doing so without anything, without any bias or any fruit for him. He doesn't stand to gain anything out of it. He just like a mere manager, manages all of these things as per the swarupa after the jiva swarupa, as to what they would do. That's it. And that is for the reason nama na mam karmani limpanti. Nama karma palespriha. It is for that he is not attached to he is not bonded to the karma or the karma swarupa because of that. And he says that, know that is how I am Lord here. So one as a human being, you should also try to practice that. Distance yourself from the karma pala, and then the way that you approach it. That is a way for you also to get out of the bondage. So he's kind of leading the mean that for that, he's saying that Guru Karma, right? And then just like how your prior ones, like Janaka and other kings that he talked about, they all did it like that, Arjuna. So you also belong to that category. So you also should do something like this. So that's why Guru Karmaiva Tasmat Tvam Purvaihi Purvataram Kritam. However your ancestors did, you also should follow this karma. So he brings it back. Krishna brings it back to the karma, whatever he's been talking about it. There's some deviation about how he is different now, so that there is more Shraddha on Arjuna to listen to him with even more Shraddha. Because the Shraddha is the one that is going to give Shraddhavan Labate Jnanam. That is what is going to get Jnana. So that one to induce more Shraddha, Krishna has to bring all of that one, and then again impel Arjuna to act. And now with that introduction, I will pass it on to Prakash ji, because he will now expand more on what is the karma swarupa as explained by Krishna. Okay, so with that, I will stop sharing, and I will. So I have to give the presenting right to Prakash.
No, GVT, he is a co-host. He should be able to present on his own.
Okay, I think.
Okay.
Okay, let me share my content.
Prakash, do you also switch on your video, please?
Did I switch on? Oh. Are you able to see now?
No, I think
We can see you. We are yet to see the slides.
Oh, okay. Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Shri Vedavyasa Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Madananda Tirtha Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Raghavendra Tirtha Gurubhyo Namaha, Hayagdreva 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 Eti Vadinam Naram Munchanti Papani Daritram Yoshitaha, Hayagdreva 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 Eti Yovatinam Tasya Nisratevani Jakhnukanya Pravakavadu, Hayagdreva 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 Eti Yo Dvanihi Vishobhavisha Vaikunta Kavadot Kanakshana. On this auspicious day of Guru Purnima, I want to offer my namaskars to Keshavrata Dutri, to Sri Vijay Krishnala Mangala, and Madhusudanji, and my sahapartis G.V. Srinivasan and Venkat and all the people who are attending. My namaskars. With that, today the topic given to me is the fourth chapter, verses 16 to 24. Basically, this is giving the characteristics of the karma. Krishna says in the previous verse, Kuru karma iva tasmatam purvai purvatam kritam. So what is this karma? What are the characteristics of this karma? Why, how to do it? All those things are explained by Krishna. So in this 16th verse, he says that Kim karma, kim akarma iti kavayopi atra mohitaha tatte karmam parakshami yajnatma mokshasya asubhat. So what is the right action? What is inaction? And the forbidden action also is not mentioned, but we can extrapolate that, Raya shows that we can take the forbidden action also. Even the great jnanis are, bewildered by the, they get confused by this rather. So Krishna is going to explain, says that I'm going to explain to you so that, you will get rid of your bondage. Whenever you do a karma, there is some, there's the opposite effect is there. I mean, there's a reaction for that is there. So I will, release you from that by knowing this knowledge. Now, he says that tat te prakshami. That I'm going to explain. So that Rayaru, he beautifully explains it into he makes into three different meanings for this. The tat can be interpreted as therefore, tat can be that karma, and that tat means by acquiring. So what he says there is the wise also therefore gets deluded by this because the karma is so very complex. And then tat kuru karma eva. That karma, what I'm asking you to do, you do that. So what is that? He has not explained it, but it's going to unravel that. And by tat means also by acquiring that knowledge, we will release from bondage. So basically, this has to be applied to all. That is that knowledge about karma, that is action, then inaction, akarma, and then vikarma means forbidden action. So this you have to know for all these three. In the next slide, he even unravels more. Again, the same thing, but it is a little bit more in detail. He says that you have to understand karma. You have to understand, I'm both of them. You need to understand it properly. Karma, akarma, and vikarma. But again, you have to also understand how karma is distinct from akarma and vikarma, and so and so. That is vikarma, how it is different, distinct and different from karma and akarma, and akarma is how it is different and distinct from karma and vikarma. So I just put a small, I am not such a pictorial guy like others, but I just put some small picture here. It's basically in a hyperlink maze. So we have anadi karmas. Our karmas start from time immemorial. Now, for example, you take a hyperlink, you go to Wikipedia or something like that. You click on that. You have so many links there. You click that, it takes you to something else. Like that, it keeps on going. There is no end to that. So you started from somewhere, but again, it keeps on going. There is no end to that. Like that, this karma is so complex. That is why Krishna is saying that you need to understand one from the different. One is the difference, distinction between all these three, because the path you go is going to be very, very, very vast. You're going to cover a big path. So that's what Krishna emphasizes here, that you need to understand the how it is distinct and different from each other. Now also in Tatparya, Acharya, he beautifully says that the karmanaha can be split into karma plus karmana can be split into karma and naha. And for that, Rayaru gives a sutra. I'm not going to go into detail. It just says Rashabhyam no naha samanapada, meaning that karma na can be that the refa, the rakara. After that, if the na comes, it can be made into no. And that is naha. What that means is, naha means matta, from me. That means all actions, that is karma generally means good action, they come from me. Meaning, Krishna does that. On behalf of you means according to our Yogyata. Similarly, inaction and also the forbidden actions, vikarma, They all come from him. They all emanate from him through you. I mean, we are through us, according to our Swarupa. And also, he says that the Naha means it's in plural, meaning there are multiple forms of Lord doing the karma for the various types of jivas. The good people, good karmas, bad people, like that, so on and so forth. That is why this karma is so complex. I did not put up, if you put a graph or something like that, that will show the how karma is so complex. The word Gahana here, you use specifically the word Gahana, it's very profound. Why? Previously also he said in the previous verse that Kavayo apiti mohita, even the wise get deluded. Why? Because, is it because the wise people have some shapa or some curse that they are not able to understand? No, it says that it's not like that. It says that the characteristic of the karma, that is the swarupa of karma, is dependent on the Lord. So only God knows every jiva's karma. Only He understands. Even the wise people don't understand because it is so profound. It is beyond their capacity. That is why he says that Gahano means it's so profound. Only God knows that. I mean, even the wise people, they don't understand completely. So that is it. The next thing is how that is the people who do this, understand this, and do it properly. Krishna praises them in this. And this shloka is one of the 8,800 shlokas in the entire Mahabharata, because Gita is part of Mahabharata. That this kind of a riddle. Veda has put so many riddles like that. So the shloka is karmanya akarmaya paschet akarmani cha karmajaya sabudhiman manusheshu sayukta krishna karmadutta. Whoever sees inaction in action and action in inaction, it makes no sense. Literally, if you take, that person is the wise person among all people, and then he is done all the actions completely. I mean, how is it possible, So again, we need Acharyaru, Rayaru, everybody to come and explain this. Hey, what is this? That means karmanya, when you are doing action, you are seeing inaction it means God is the independent doer here. God is Swatantra Karta. And when we do our actions, or whatever the ordained actions we do, we are seeing God's hand, God's independence in those actions. When you see that, He's the doer. Actually, He's the doer, according to our Yogita. So, and we are dependent doer. So normally when a dependent doer is what is like, for example, we have a father teaching a kid to write. He takes a chalk piece, or takes throws a sand on the ground, and then he holds the kid's hand, and then he teaches him how to write all the alphabets. So the kid thinks that he's writing. So like that, we are also like that in saying that the jnani understands that we are not doing it independently. It is God who is doing according to our Yogita. So that is the first thing about that, seeing inaction in action. Then akarma, that is when you are not doing anything, you are seeing action, meaning suppose if the person is in deep sleep. If so many things are happening, our breathing, our internal organs, so many, everything is functioning properly. Not only that, think about the entire world. So many things are happening when we are sleeping. Nothing is stopped. The world is running. Everything is going on as it's supposed to do. So that is what we are saying. We are seeing God's hand when we are not doing anything. When we are not having any actions, we see God doing everything. So that is seeing action when we in action. So we need to apply this for the forbidden actions also. That means what? Suppose I'm doing a forbidden thing. For example, we take the example of Ambarisha and Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni comes for the Dwadashi Parana, and then Ambarisha is waiting for him to come to complete his Anika. The Parana time has come, and Ambarisha took the Parana that Tirtha. Durvasa becomes angry, and and Sudarshan Chakra, all those things. So this forbidden action also is not something we can do it independently. That is also controlled by God, and He only does that according to our karma and yogita. So a person who knows this, he is the wise person. He is the wise among men. And also his yukta means now he has the means. He has understood the method how to get rid of the bondage. And also, this person who's having this anusandhana, this attitude, he's the one who has done the action completely. Same thing comes in 15th chapter also. One who has understood all these things, he has done everything completely. Something like that comes in the 15th chapter. So similarly, here also he says that the person who has this understanding, he is the one who has done the action completely and is going to get the full meaning. In the Tatparya, there is a Madhvacharya has done two works. One is Bhashya and another is Tatparya. In the Tatparya, he says that it gives another interpretation. From Narada Purana, he gives support. Karo mean karo asmin niyata iti karma jivodartha iti shabdona mitatvad akarma bhagavanari. So what it means is karma asmin niyata means that is somebody who is bound by the do's and don'ts of the Vedas. That means they are supposed to do all these things. There is no escape for them. That person is a jiva. Jiva is bound. And then that jiva, karma, that is a jiva, he is seeing akarma, meaning he is seeing that he is doing all the actions under the control of. That is, he does everything, but he is under the control of. He is not an independent doer. He understands that. That's what that means. And then akarma means God is Swatantra Purusha, is independent. Only he is the independent entity in this entire universe. He is not bound by any rules. So for him, that Hari is doing everything. That is, the Jiva is bound by everything. He is doing actions as a dependent doer, but Bhagavan, the Hari, is doing everything, but he is independent doer because not bound by any rules. So basically the idea is, this shloka tells you that we need to see our dependence on God to perform our actions, and we need to see God who's doing everything and he's independent, he can do it. He's independent doer. So that is the whole idea of the shloka, and then such a person reaps all the benefits. Again, how to achieve this? How to practice this is the next 5 shlokas. How to achieve this in the sense that, what are the methods? All those things are explained in the next 5 shlokas. There is the 19th sloka goes like this: Yasya sarve samarambaha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnana agni dardha karmanam tamahu panditam buddha. So even when you before you start to do an action, you have an oath or a sankalpa that by doing this, I want to get something. I want to go to Swarga, or anything for that matter. I have an expectation behind that action, even before I have not even commenced the action, but I have an expectation even before doing the action. Krishna says that even that you have to give up. That abhimana tyaga, you should give up. That is the ownership of, because only if you own the action, you think you get the rules. And this is already explained in 2nd chapter also. Karmanya vadikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma palahetu sangosana karma. That is, you don't do it for any with a hetu in mind. That is the phala in mind. That is the benefit of the action in mind. That also you have to give up. Then with that knowledge, which is equal to fire, whatever karmas you do, whatever actions you do, they all get burnt, means that is, you are not bound by that karma. So that person is called a wise. Among the, is called a pandita. Basically, he knows what he is supposed to do. By the Buddha means by the wise people. So that is the first thing. Then the next sloka gives more. Tyaktva karmaphala sangam nityatutto nirashaya karmanya pravitto abhi naiva kinchit karomi saha. See, for example, now he has made the oath that I'm not interested in any fruits or benefits of this action. But what if after he has commenced the action, he's after the fruits? Suddenly he wants to know what will happen. Will I get this? What will be the end result of this? Even that, for example, we are doing something, even take the example of Arjuna also, whether they will win the war, whether Dharma will establish. So that also we need to live. So that's what he says, karma phala sangham. That is, whatever the benefits of the action, you should not hanker after that and think about the fruits of it, even after you commence the action. And then you have to be contented. You should ever be ever contented. And nirashaya here, Acharya gives in the Tatparya that nityatupto nirashaya can be split into nityatupta anirashaya, meaning double negative, meaning ashraya means dependence. Double negative means you have to have dependence on Lord. When you take refuge in Lord, what happens is, even if you do actions, what happens is it is as though you're not doing anything. Meaning what? If you don't do any action, you're not bound by the actions. The actions there will be no reaction for that. So that's what he says, that you should not be. Not only you should give up the sankalpa or the oath before the fruits of the action before you start, but even when you do the actions, don't have the fruits in your mind. So that's what he says here. And then the next sloka, what he says is nirashir yatachitatma tyapta sabra parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan apnoti kilbisham. So basically here he says that he gives the means to relinquish the attachment to the fruit of action. How do you he says that how do you relinquish this? The desire for the fruits or the benefits. He says that you have to control your mind and heart, because here Acharya says Atma is manas. Then Chitta means it is also mind, right? So according to some Vyakhanakartas, they say that it is heart, means antakaran. So basically they are all part of the one thing only, that the mind is five portions of mind are there. Manas, Chitta, Uti, Antakarana, all those things. So here, mind and heart means, completely you are controlling, the entire mind, all parts of the mind. To relinquish, only if you control that, you can relinquish the fruits of all the actions. And also, it means that you're not getting attached to the body, because I am the doer, I do it. That is Abhimana Tyaga. The same thing comes in second chapter also. Matra Sparshasta Kaunteya Shitoshna Sukha Agama Anitya Tam Tichikshabara. That is, you not get attached to that. Attached to the bodily actions and those things. So you need to get detached from the body and sense organs. That is Abhimana Tyaga. Here, when you do all these things, when you control your mind, when you give up all the Abhimana, what happens here is Kevalam Shariram means it is you are only, that is, you are doing only things for your sustenance for the body. Even then, that can give you the karma pala. But even when you do that, what happens is, with no desires, you will not have any bondage. That is, even if you do actions, kilbisham, that means you will not get attached to the results. You will not get bonded by that. Here, in the previous verse, naiva kinchit karoti. He says that even if you do, it is as though you're not doing anything. Now, this is classic, the Advaita view, where it says that, hey, there is no action, nothing is there. It could give that meaning. That is why Krishna says that, no, it's not like that. It is not Nitya. All the actions are not Nitya or unreal. To negate that, he says that, that means you are doing action. Actions are real. When you do the actions, you have this anusandhana of all these things, what was previously said. When you do that, even if you do the action, it is equal to not doing action, not in action. It means that you will not get into any bondage. That's what it means by this. And then he says that if you come to this stage, what will happen? That is, you control your mind, you control everything, your heart, everything. When you control, what happens is, you come to a stage where Edricha lava santushto dvandadito vimatsaraha samasiddho asiddho cha sutva apina vidya. That is, you come to a point where whatever you get, you're content. You're not hankering after things, because only hanker after things, you get attached after that, and then you start doing, you go into a vicious cycle. So whatever you get, you're very happy. You did something, you tried your best, you got something, you're very happy about that, what you got. That's what he means. It's not that you don't do anything, not getting anything. It's not like that. You do your best, you got something, you're very happy about that. Then after that, Dvandva Adito Vimatsara, meaning Dvandva Atita, dualities. That is basically Labha, Alabha, that is Jaya. Yeah, all those things has been previously said also. But here also is reiterating, saying that you cross that dual state. You are equipoise stage, where nothing, all these dualities, they don't affect you. And also he says that vimatsaraha. Vimatsara means here somebody is has very successful, and based on their yogita and karma, they are doing very well. He says that don't get jealous about other people, because that is their karma. That is, you can see this is also a karma swarupa, one of the characteristic karma. Their karma, their yogita, they have done it, and they are successful. We don't have to get jealous about that, because our karma, our yogita is totally different. So this is also another very important aspect of this whole teaching, karma swarupa, where we don't see others, we see yourself. That means obviously you will not be jealous about other people. So he says that everything sama siddho siddho, it is the same thing, Dvandadita. Even if you go beyond the dualities, Yukipa is the both siddha na siddha, that is loss and gain. Whatever you get or don't get, it's all same for you. You don't care about that. Then again he says, na krutvapi na nibatte. Even if you do actions, that does not bind you. So basically it is almost the same, but there is subtle differences in that. Then he summarizes in this shloka. Whatever he told before, he's summarizing in this shloka. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanamastute chetasah yajnaya acharatah karma samagram praviliyate. Actually, this shloka has been told before also in 3rd chapter. He says that yajnatma karmano anyatta loko yam karma bandhana. It's already told in 3rd chapter also. Meaning, if you do it for God, solely for God's pleasure, to preeti of the Lord, you don't get bonded. So that is also we can take here. So basically Krishna summarizes this, although whatever is told, that the characteristic of a wise person who has understood this karma swarupa, by summarizing everything, he says gata sangasya. So here again we have seen that, yes, sarve samarambha kama sankalpita, we see that in the previous shloka, that is, he has given up the desires even before he starts the action. That means, and also when he's doing the action, he's relinquished the desires for the fruits of actions. So gata sangas means he has relinquished all the desires and the fruits of the action before commencing the action and while doing the action. Muktasya means, here it means, again we talked about that, abhimana tyaga. He has given up all the abhimana, that is attachment to the body and also to the acts. And also he is having the complete understanding that he's not the independent doer, but he's the dependent doer. So, and then jnana chetasa, that is one who have fixed his mind upon the Lord. Yajnaya acharata, that is to please Hari. Yajnaya yajo apujayam, yajna means also, it means Hari. So yajnaya, for Hari, acharata, whatever you do, all the actions only to please Hari. With this attitude, if you do all your actions, they will not bind you. So that is what is in this. He gives a summary of whatever he told before. Then the next sloka actually is this is going to be more detailed by Neetaji, but he starts here. How to have the control of your mind, or how to fix your mind on Hari. How do you do that? For that, he gives this wonderful shloka. Brahmarpanam brahmavihi brahmakno brahmanautam brahmavetena gantavyam brahmakarma samadhina. So basically here he says that this is a shloka where literally if you take the meaning, it gives the sense that God is non-different from everything. I mean, the jada, I'll just go through that. So in order to have this, for example, if you take this, Brahma Arpanam means the articles used in yajna. For example, the ladle which they use to pour the ghee into the havan, into the havan. That article, havihi means all the substances, the dravya, whatever they put, rice and etc., all those things, ghee. Brahmagna, that is the fire, the actual fire in the havan. Brahmana means the person who's doing the actual yajna itself. And then the hutam, the actual homa itself. Then samadhina, that is the meditation upon Vishnu. And then karma means all the agnyoti karma. They're all Brahma only. Because you have to Brahma Arpanam. Brahma is Arpanam, the article. Brahma Havi is the ghee, except substance is Brahma is Agni, the fire. Again, Brahmana Utam, even though it is Brahmana, it is Titya, that is the third case. the instrumental case, in order to make sense, you have to take as Brahma Utam only. You have to take. That is the understanding. That is how you have to construct that. Then Samadhina, karma, all those things. What it means is, in a literal sense, it is Brahman only. It is all the same. It is different from, non-different from Brahma. Like the Sutti Vakya, if you understand misunderstanding, Sarvam Kalvedam Brahma, everything is Brahma. But it is not so. The fact is, Brahma is totally different from this. For this, Acharya quotes from the Purana, Padma Purana. It means everything is under his control. That is what it means. It is not that he's the same. He's same as the Jada. No, it's not that. For that, he gives this Padma Purana quote: Tadinam yataha sarvamataha sarvo bhavaniti vadanti munayah sarvenatu sarva surupataha iti padme. So basically, he says that everything is tadaninam. It is under his control, but he's not that. That's what he says. He quotes the Padma Purana, and then he clarifies that. And also, the Brahma Sutra, tad adhinatvat tadartavat, also indicates the same thing. Everything is under his control only. And also, here Acharya shows in Tatparya, see, the Brahmana Utam could have been Brahmaiva Utam, because he is non-different, right? If you take the literal sense. But no, he purposely used the word Brahmana Utam just to give the Vibhakti chain in order to show that, no, it is God is never all these things. He is the controller of all these things. Everything is under his control. So basically, in summary, Jnanasta Chetasa means that is fixing your mind upon Hari, meaning that we have the understanding that everything is under control. Give up our Swatantriya Abhimana, this I am the doer, and offering everything unto him. So this is one of the yajnas. Many yajnas are there. Neetaji is going to explain that. But here he starts with yajna. I mean, the typical yajna, where to give us how we do what is our attitude, what is our anusandhana when we do our actions, performing things. That this is the anusandhana you have, and then you will see that in detail when Neetaji talks about the various different types of yajnas. So basically, to summarize and some take-home messages and summary, basically, 3 types of karma: action, inaction, forbidden action. They are different and distinct from each other. Karma Swarupa is totally under Lord's control and is very, very profound. You have to see God's hand in all the actions, whether you're performing or not. You have to be detached from the fruits of the actions. Be contented and take refuge in God. You keep your mind focused on God. Be content with whatever you have and be poised. And with the firm understanding that everything is under Lord's control. So with that, I conclude. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Sri Krishna.
Thank you, Prakash. I think we'll go over to Neetaji for the next section.
Harihi Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Krishnaya Namaha. Happy Guru Purnima to everyone. So, and as Mataji mentioned, this is a very, very auspicious day, and we are lucky to be here with everyone this lecture today. So, as Prakash had mentioned about yajnas, so I'm going to talk a bit more about yajnas because the next few shlokas covers this part. So 25th to 32, and then from 33 onwards, Sureshji will take over. So to know what yajna is, so we need to know what is yajna and what are the different types of yajnas that are described here in these shlokas, which yajna is superior, how to do these, means with what knowledge or contemplation you have to do these yajnas, and the consequence of performing and not performing yajna. You must be thinking, why is Sri Krishna telling Arjuna about these yajnas in the middle of a war? I know he's answering questions, Arjuna's questions that started off in chapter 1. So let's see what these answers are. So we'll first start off with what is yajna. So again, this is a slide from Madhuji's lectures a few years ago on Purusha Suktam. So thank you to Madhuji for this slide. So this again, Purusha Sukta we know is part of Rig Veda, 10th mandala, and in this the shloka, Yajnena Yajna Majayanta Devaha Tani Dharmani Prathamanyasan. So Yajnena Yajnam. So again here Yajna is described in Purusha Sukta. So the meanings are given here. It's Yajna, it's an incarnation of Vishnu. Vishnu himself is Yajna that we know. And if you remember Ishavasya Upanishad, who is the Deva for Devata for Ishavasya Upanishad is Yajna. Yajna Namaka Paramatma. So the cosmic creation, so we have had so many lectures on creation, and creation itself is a big yajna. Again, Panchagni Vidya that Madhusudanji has taught us, again, that's again the big yajna. An act of surrender to God is yajna. Sacrifice that we all know what we've learned in the past, that's also yajna. Chanting of mantras and offering of ghee into the sacred fire, worship, prayer, praise, etc. is yajna. Now, the actual word meaning yaja means deva pujana, sangati karana or unity, and charity and dana. So these are the three main meanings of yajna. So if you think of yajna, not just that fire, not just the offering of ghee into the fire, think of these three things: deva pujana, sangati karana, and charity. Okay, so next slide, please. Yeah. So we'll also look at yajna in Vishnu Sahasranam. So shlokas 105 and 48 talk about yajna, and also 104. So in 48 it says yajna mahejyascha krutusatram satangatihi, and in 104 it comes in yajna patiryajva yajnyango yajnavahanaha. And 105, Yajnakrit, Yajnakrit, Yajni, Yajnabhuk, Yajna Sadhanaha, Yajnantakrit, Yajnaguhya, Manna Mannada Evacha. So again, all the meanings are here. Yajna, one whose very nature is the Yajna, the whole Yajna. Yajna Pitaha, so Lord of all Yajnas, Yajnanga, every part of Yajna is Bhagwanta or Lord. Yajna Vahanaha, one who fulfills all the Yajnas. So all the meanings that are here, so I won't go through all of them. So it just means the whole of the yajna is Vishnu. Okay, so next slide, please. So yajnas can be internal or external. So thinking or meditating on Lord is internal, or studying and understanding. And external yajnas are the yajnas that we perform, like either charity or havan, etc. So those there are external. And it could be jnana yajna or karma yajna. So giving the jnana. So in chapter 17 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about different types of yajnas, meaning different types, meaning satvika yajna. What is a satvika yajna? What is a rajasika yajna? And what's the tamasika yajna? So I think I'll go through this because it's important to understand this basic bit is what is good. So the yajna that is performed according to scriptural injunctions without expectation of rewards. I think Prakash has highlighted that quite a lot, without expectation of rewards. So all the karmas have to be without expectation of rewards and with firm conviction of mind and as a matter of duty. That is sattvic. So anything that is done for material benefit, for purpose of ostentation or due to vanity, that is rajasic. So you know that yajna is rajasic, so it's not preferred. And tamasic is without devotion and which does not follow any scriptures, where no food is offered or no mantras are chanted, no donation is made. That is a tamasic yajna. So we should aim for, or should be doing, is the satvika yajna. So this will come again in chapter 17, but I thought it was very relevant here, so I wanted to include that in this part. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please, Suresh. Okay, so now coming to the shlokas that look at it, 25. So there are about 12 different yajnas or categories. Let's not say that they're numbers, they're not exact, they're categories or groups of yajnas. So first one, it says Daivameva Pare Yajnam. So some rishis or paramahamsas worship God, and that itself is a yajna. So worshipping God, thinking of God is yajna for them. Okay, because they don't do fire sacrifices, so they just do the worshipping of God. Krishna has described about yajna of actually sacrificing or offering senses, so total control of senses. This is where I've put the image of total control of senses is one form of yajna. It's not possible, it's not easy. So offering sense objects in the 5 senses. What he, again, fire here or Agni means it's a metaphor. So it's what we, if we have to control something, either we will generate energy or use energy as well to control. So that's the fire. So offering sense objects, or also trying to control what we see. So, what we hear, what we eat, what we see, that is another form of yajna. So only hearing good things, seeing good things. So that's why I put that no entry without permission. So you don't allow those things to go in. So that's another form of yajna. So activities of prana, your breath control, is again another form of yajna. So those are 5 ones described. So next slide, please. So so the next is 6th, 7th, and 8th are charity, tapas, and yoga. Okay, so dravya yajnas, tapo yajnaha, yoga yajnas tatha pare, swadhyaya yajnascha yatayaha sanchitavrataha. So charity. So again, doing charity, doing dana, giving material things or money to build something, money to build community places, etc. They're all danas. Again, chapter 17. I'm going back to chapter 17 because all the details about different types of dana are given in there. First, I used to think that dana is all good, but when I read this chapter 17, I realized no, they're all there are different types. So sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. So I think it's a bit of homework. I won't go through each one of them. So if you could go and look it up, it's very interesting. So that is a charity bit. Tapas or penance. Again, 3 types, sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. And again, in that, it can be what sort of, or the mind, tapas because of in mind or body and speech. So it's all classified differently. So please look it up in chapter 17. Key thing about tapas, you think, okay, all tapas is good, but that's not the case. There are 4 questions to be answered. Who is being worshipped in this penance or in this tapas? How has that person understood God? What does he know about God? We can't know everything, as Prakash Ji was mentioning, and as Ji was also mentioning, that even Lakshmi does not know God fully, but we have to still know him in a particular, to our extent, to how much of we can understand. What is the boon that he's asking? What is the boon going to be used for? Now, I'll put a picture there of Hiranyakashipu. So we all know what boon he has asked, what he was doing, and what he used it for. And we know the result. You can see it again in the picture. So it's not all right. Everything is not correct. So you have to do the right thing. We have to do the sattvic type of tapas. Thank you. So next one is the yajna of studying scriptures. So doing swadhyaya. So studying yourself, the Vedas, or also studying your own profession work, but doing it properly. Okay, so doing that as well, because that is also going to help community, what you're going to do after you learned that. So listening to scriptures, teaching scriptures, teaching whatever you understood. So you can see the pictures there. So gurus, especially today with Guru Purnima, I think this is the key thing that we all should remember. Again, knowledge shared. So this is the type of charity that does not reduce after giving. So it actually increases. So sharing knowledge, actually we increase the knowledge by sharing that knowledge, by studying and actually understanding it better to teach. Okay, so next for that, yeah. So some people will do yajna by doing pranayama. I must say I'm not an expert in pranayama. There are lots of things described about pranayama, holding of breath, and how to hold the breath and how to control the breathing in, breathing out, and in kumbhaka, which is the middle part. So number 12 again is limiting food intake. So he's talking about how apare niyataharaha. So eating smaller portions, taking just what is required, or even probably less than what is required. Now, why are all these important? Why do we have to know this or do this? Because it will help us be healthy, and then we can actually then do our studies and progress in the Adhyatma area. So we need all this to carry on with our daily activities. Okay. Next one. Yeah. So what Krishna is saying is all yajnas are achieved through the karma, whether it's kaya, vacha, or manasa. All karmas, however small, are complete only when they end in knowledge. So your karma should end in knowledge, and then the knowledge has to be used to do the karmas. So when we do yajna, and whatever is remaining, what we consume, when we consume that is what is called as amrita. So that is what gives us immortality. All yajnas listed are important. They are categories, remember. So within that, there will be other things. So basically, most of the things that we do, and that those activities that lead to shreyas, not all the activities that lead to shreyas are the yajnas. Our jnana yajna is superior to any of the other yajnas, like karma, the other yajnas that have been described. Most important part I must highlight is that it has to be, whatever you do has to be submitted to Lord Krishna. Or so, for example, say a student has studied for a whole year, really put in hard work, and writes the exam paper, completes it, answers everything correctly, but does not submit it to the invigilator for marking, keeps it with himself. He will not pass because he's not submitted it. Same thing if you're filling an online form, if you're doing some work, if you don't press the submit button, it will not be assessed, although all the answers may be correct. So submission to Lord Krishna is very important, and this is where the word Brahmano Mukhe comes. So if you remember Mataji's lecture and talking about Havan and the eyes and where the ahuti is given, ahuti is, you have to imagine the eyes and you have to imagine the mouth within the fire, and the ahuti is given where the mouth is, where we see the mouth. And this is why the Brahmano Mukhe. So ahuti means all the karmas or all the phalas, all that we are doing, yajnas, the ahuti has to be given in the Brahmano Mukhe, or to Brahma, to Lord Krishna. Okay, so next slide, please. So I said, okay, so what are the consequences then? If you perform yajna with knowledge, that is the key bit. It destroys impurities and sins. So where he says, yajna kshapita kalmashaha in shloka 30, attain Supreme Lord, yanti brahma sanatanam, and vimoksha say in 32. Again, none of these are easy. It might take many janmas to achieve. If we don't perform yajna, we are unfit to live in this world, let alone any other world. So no, we cannot live in this. So it's that's how important yajna is. Next slide, please. So why is Sri Krishna telling Arjuna about yajnas in the middle? So because he knows that Arjuna wants to go away, does not want to fight, wants to go away and be an ascetic, maybe leave all this. So he's telling him that doing karma and doing his prescribed duty, that itself is a yajna. So all karmas are yajna when done in a right way. Okay, we discussed this Kshatriya Dharma in chapter 2 when we did detailed chapter 2 discussion. And no one can escape karma apart from someone who's achieved mukti or in asamprajnat samadhi. Okay, so yeah, next slide, please. So take home messages from my part of the shlokas. Yajnas must be performed. All of us should be doing one form or the other. I'm not talking about just the fire sacrifice. It's the activities that are described. And all yajnas are acts, internal or external, should be done in the right spirit. That is taking us towards Shreyas. And all the actions are through thought, words, and deeds, so action. Internal yajna is more important than external. Gaining and sharing knowledge. And again, I'd like to highlight the day of Guru Purnima, again, sharing knowledge. All our gurus who have shared knowledge so far, and that's how we are getting this knowledge. I'd like to thank them. And that's the best form of yajna that we can have. And every yajna should end in knowledge and dedicated to Lord Shri Krishna. That submit button, do not forget that. So with that, Krishna, I will. So I'll pass it on to Sureshji. Although I've covered a little bit of 33, he will go through in more detail of Shloka 33 and take it forward from there to tell us how that knowledge that I've said is important will be achieved, how to get that knowledge and from whom to get that knowledge. Over to you, Suresh.
Suresh ji, so take as
Yeah.
much, take us through as much as you can, and then wherever you see the logical split, you can carry it over in the next session.
Thank you, Jiviji. We'll get started. I hope you can see the slides and hear me well. Brahmanta Guruvas Saksha Dishtam Daivam Shrevpatihi Acharya Srimadacharya Santume Janma Janmani Manojavam Maruta Tulyavegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtam Vatatmajam Vanarayuta Mukhyam Sri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadde. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everybody. And before I start, as today being most auspicious day, sincere and humble pranams to all teachers, all gurus, and most importantly, perhaps at least to me, my immediate and nearest guru now, Sri Madhusudan ji. And JK ji, welcome to this forum, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts in the next session of ours. So with that, we get into my portion of chapter 4 discussion, which is fundamentally the summarization of chapter 4. Krishna is just beginning to conclude at this point of time. And we are reaching that stage in Bhagavad Gita, wherein Krishna is summarizing in such a way and bringing to end a concept about knowledge, wherein he is unequivocally proclaiming the supremacy of knowledge, and a concept that has been unanimously accepted by almost all schools of thought. So before getting into that part of it, I thought it would just be fit that we do a brief recap about the things that we have learned with regards to knowledge, pertaining to some of the concepts that will be referred to in the shlokas which come subsequently. The concepts that Krishna deals with will further explain knowledge as fulfiller of everything. How does one obtain this knowledge? He also tells us about what are the obstacles in the path of the knowledge, and ultimately he concludes with the greatness of knowledge. That's how I've tried to structure this part of the discussion. And so where do we start? We start with some, I just thought we've been having this debate or we've been contemplating this Jnana Yoga versus Karma Yoga, doing, knowing. I just thought for maybe better understanding, why not put a 2x2 picture of knowing and doing and see what it means to us. So on this picture, as you will see in the bottom left quadrant, not knowing and not doing. And to this, Krishna has clarified with no confusion whatsoever. He has said, Nahi kashchit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karmakrit. It's impossible, guys. I mean, as long as you are alive, as long as you will have to be doing something. So there's no question of not doing. And therefore, perhaps that quadrant becomes really irrelevant. If you're not knowing, not doing is a quadrant that doesn't make much sense. If we move rightwards on the x-axis, we get to the next quadrant, which is doing, but not knowing. And I've labeled this quadrant as dangerous, because Krishna has very clearly said, Ye yatha mam prapadyante, tamstataiva bhajamyam. Whatever you ask, know that that's what you are going to get. And if you don't know enough, you obviously are not going to be asking for the right thing. And you know what, as was alluded to earlier, what you know, only I know best. You don't know what you know as well. So be very careful when you are doing anything without knowing or with no knowledge of it. To make it even worse, there is the Bhagavata statement, which, criticizes this quadrant so harshly. It just says, Agni Mugdaha, Dhumatantaha. You know what? What will you get if you do things without knowing? You'll be so immersed in making sure that the fire is burning wonderfully well, But what you will get is you will just get suffocation because of the smoke. That's the only thing you will achieve if you keep doing things without knowing. So fundamental message there is one needs to actually cross the threshold of knowledge. Then we move further to the next quadrant, which is knowing and doing. And this perhaps is the most important quadrant for us, which is one needs to know what one is doing and one needs to do. And if we, at the right level of knowing and doing based on our own capacities, Krishna has told us where it will get to. Esha Brahmi Stitif Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuhyati. We will get to that state one day. More details of it will come as we discuss some of the shlokas in the subsequent slides. And then the last quadrant is knowing, not doing. Now, as we had seen previously for the quadrant below, Krishna has actually ruled it out. But he gives one exception. So then what he says is that there is one state wherein, doing your duty is not, you're not bound by it. And that is when you are in the state of samadhi. And for us, most of us, I believe, is a terrible work in progress. There's a long, long way to get there. But if we don't understand it appropriately and we begin to believe that we know everything and therefore we don't need to be doing anything, that quadrant perhaps becomes even more dangerous than doing without knowing. So I just thought I will put this 2 by 2, and what it logically led to was something what we call in modern day parlance as the do, learn, do cycle. And that's what Krishna is pointing us towards. It is the do, learn, do cyclical activity wherein we get better and know better for ourselves. So how does this do, learn, do cycle translate into what we've been learning? So we get to refer to the most famous, one of the most favorite topics that comes repeatedly in our discussions. Atma va are drashtavyaha, shrotravyo mantavyo nididhyasitoyam maitreyi. So Atma va, we know that Atma in its Parama Mukhya Vritti actually means Vishnu. Drashtavya, yeah, we can get to see him by doing Shrotravyo, Mantavyo, and Nididhyasitoya. So we do to know, and the knowing should result in being able to do better. Being able to do better should enable us to know even better. So thus goes the cyclical do, learn, do cycle for us, which is nothing but Nididhyasitavyaha. So which is fine, but then what do I do? So for that, Krishna, Prakash ji just mentioned about this, that even kavis, even those who understand comprehensively the complete meaning of every single letter, they get confused. So therefore, what should we be doing? Krishna has very clearly stated in 16:24 when it says, Tasmat Shastram Pramanante Karya Karya Vyavastito. So do, learn, Jnatva Shastra Vidhanoktam, Karma Kartrumaharasi. So do as per what Shastras have prescribed. And if you can do that, that is the journey towards moksha sadhana. There's a caution there. There's an what if. Now, actually, Krishna talks about 3 enemies, which, in the 48th shloka, which will come subsequently, Ajnana, Ashraddha, and Samshaya. So these are things, be very careful. They can actually take you off into a very different direction. And if by any chance you do, Yashastra Vidhim Rutsrajya Vartate Kamakarataha Nasa Siddhim Avapnoti Na Sukham Na Param Gatim. Guy, you will get lost. There's no hope for you if you do things without following the Shastra. So that's the caution that Krishna gives us. But Krishna has been very gracious. He says, each one of you are different guys, and there are different ways of doing it. There's no one single way or method of doing it. Do what comes most naturally to you. There are some who will pursue it. Dhyanena atmani pashyanti. There are some who will do anye sankhena yogena. Then there is the Shrutvan Nebhya Upasana, different ways of pursuing, trying to get this knowledge. And Krishna says, I know it's not going to be easy. So in chapter 12, he actually describes the many ways in which we can actually try and get it. The ultimate aim being, Mayeva mana ajatsva, mai buddhim niveshaya. I mean, make sure that you are only thinking, you are concentrating on me. But if you can't do that, abhyasa yogena tataha, practice, my dear friend. That's the best way to get it. Maybe you will still not get it. Then what? Mat karma paramo bhava, madartham api karmani. Just make sure that you offer every karma onto me. If you can't do that also, just to sarva karma, just at least give up the results of the karmas that you are doing. There are tons of ways of doing it, guys. Do it is what Krishna perhaps seems to be telling us. And if we can do that in the right, we will reach a stage, we will get the jnana and vairagya that should translate into pure bhakti. So this pure bhakti would then help us know this knowledge even better. And some of these concepts, we have already discussed them in detail in many different types. Madhuji has spent a lot of energy in conveying some of these to us. Last week also we were talking about the 9 pearls, the 9 gems of understanding Tattvavada. So some very brief concepts. Hari Parataraha, I mean, Dva Suparna Sauja Sakhaya. We are doing the Upanishad Chinthana maybe in the next couple of shlokas. I'm sure Madhuji is going to tell us even more detail about Dvasaparna. It's going to come again, fundamentally telling us that, there is the Jiva and the Brahma are different. There is one, who doesn't feel hungry, who's not bothered about eating, but one who is lost in eating the fruits of this nature. Then about conveying the dependency like the mirror, the Bimba Pratibimba Rupa, and then fundamentally the Tattvato Bheda, where he's saying the Jada, which is, akartru, which is abuddhi purvaka kartru, it has no knowledge. It is totally aswatantra, it's totally dependent. It has no jnana and it undergoes swarupa nasha. As against jiva, which is perpetual. It's not going to get destroyed. It's always been there and will always be there, but it has always incomplete knowledge, apurna jnana. It is aswatantra, it is dependent, and it does do buddhi purvaka kartru, but that is paradhina. That's again not controlled. It's not self-controlled. It is dependent on the Lord. Lakshmi, except for the fact about knowing about Vishnu, is far different from these two categories, and she is swatantra to the extent that she listens and takes commands from Vishnu, so she's dependent on Vishnu. She knows everything except understanding Vishnu in totality. So that's where Lakshmi comes as an independent entity next to Vishnu, and the rest of us are totally dependent, while Lakshmi is partially dependent on Vishnu. Then the other concept which we will again touch upon is about Shraddha, and therefore this thing about the Shodasha Kala Purusha, the 16 steps that one has to make sure that these boundaries are transcended as we progress towards moksha sadhana is an important thing, and we'll touch upon this in the subsequent chapter. So with that little brief bound, I think it's important to keep some of these concepts in the background as we get to this portion of chapter 4, which is when Krishna is beginning to conclude, which is profound, and shlokas which have very deep meaning and practical applications to us. So before we get to 33, as we saw a little earlier in the 30th shloka, Krishna seems to be saying that, there are these many different kinds of yajnas, and all the knowers of these yajnas, and they'll do it, and they get themselves relieved of this perpetual cycle of birth and death, which perhaps prompts a question as to, are all yajnas similar? And Krishna is answering that question in the 33rd verse, which Neetaji just touched upon. Shreyo dravyamaya yajna jnana yajnah parantapah sarvam karma akhilam partha jnane parisamapyate. So very profound and very important shloka, with each word perhaps needs to be understood in this shloka. So, but before we get into that, Kauravas and Pandavas fought the same war. They had similar materials at their disposal, and they were fighting for the same goal. If that was the case, then the outcomes for both of them should be similar, but they were not. Why were they not? What was the fundamental difference? So that's where that's the question perhaps which should prompt thinking about this. So what is Dravyamaya Yajna and what is Jnanamaya Yajna? So Dravyamaya Yajna is an yajna where there is material preponderance. There is a lot of doing with very little of knowing. It does need a lot of material, of course, like Agni, Havis, Samidhi, and the entire effort is making sure that these materials are provided. And if it just comes, and if it restricts itself to just the material preponderance of it, it does not become moksha sadhaka. As against Jnanamaya Yajna, which is where there is preponderance for knowledge. And at its pinnacle, it perhaps needs no external material. All that it perhaps needs is Jnana, Vairagya, and Bhakti. And that is Moksha Sadhaka. And Krishna perhaps is trying to tell us that in comparison to Dravyamaya Yajna, Jnanamaya Yajna is any day better. So that's the message Krishna seems to be giving us. So then he uses these words, Sarvam and Akhilam. At the first glance, they may look like a repetition, but not so. And before we get to Sarvam and Akhilam, I've just put a picture here. Most of us perhaps have had the experience of performing a yajna, homa, so to say, be it for whatever reason. Be it the Navagraha Homa, the Dhanvantri Homa, Mrityunjaya Homa, whatever it is that we have taken part in. And it might be good, at least to me, it did happen while I was reading about this, is to just reflect back and say, where was our attention when this yajna was being performed? So just contemplate, think about that, and we'll get back to the shloka here, which is Sarvam and Akhilam. Sarvam perhaps means everything. It's quantitative. Akhilam perhaps is indicating the quality of it. Each of these in its entirety is perhaps what is being conveyed by the word Akhilam here. There's also some reference to saying Sarvam perhaps means Shrauta Karma and Akhilam means Smartha Karma. Well, that's one definition that's around. But Sarvam could also mean all the current karmas, and Akhilam as all past karmas is another interpretation. Or there is perhaps a little more logical explanation of saying that karmas that have been mentioned by me, Arjuna, and which Neetaji just touched upon, the various different kinds of yajnas, and Akhila is those and everything else, all the other Shrauta and Smartha karmas perhaps would mean Akhilam. But fundamentally, what Krishna is trying to say is that not only all karmas and each in its entirety is perhaps the message that Krishna is giving us when he says Sarvam and Akhilam. And then he ends the shloka with saying that it is all jnane parisamapyate. They all end in jnana. Now, what is this end? What is this samapyate? So here, the word samapyate perhaps is used in the sense that things reach their logical conclusion. It is not just finishing a task. Somehow it got over. No, that's not what it means. Each of these karmas will find their resolution, or in other words, saying that the stated objectives of doing a particular karma would have been met, is completely fulfilled. And that is what Krishna is trying to say when the right jnana is obtained. So in other ways, acts which are done with knowledge, and if they do culminate with further enhancement of the knowledge, and that is what and that's what is being conveyed when he says that if we do that kind of yajna at the right time, they all will find their karmas, they all will find their right resolution, in Jnana. So Shreyo Dravyamayadhyajna Jnanayajna Parantapah Sarvam Karma Akhilam Partha Jnane Parisamapyate. There are a couple of more objectives that are referred to in this shloka, and I think they are important. We'll just briefly touch upon that. Krishna is calling Arjuna Parantapa and Partha, two words in the same shloka. Obviously, they are not meant to be just calling, hey Arjuna, not a sound created just to get attention. It's got many, different meanings. Param means greatness of Paramatma and Tapa means contemplate. So Arjuna, Krishna is telling Arjuna, you know what? You are fighting a war. War is nothing but a material, it is a kind of a materially preponderant karma that you are going to be doing. You're actually fighting a war. But you know what? Be a Parantapa. Make sure that even while you are doing that, you are consistently and continually contemplating on the greatness of Paramatma such that your Dravamaya Yajna becomes Jnanamaya Yajna. Param also means internal enemies, Raga, Dvesha, etc., etc. And Tapa means burnt. So you, Arjuna, are the one who you are a Parantapa. You are the one who has actually burnt all your internal enemies. You have conquered them. Param also means external enemies. You are going to fight a war. You're going to win. You won so many wars, Parantapa, and that's what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, saying that you are the one, who has won enough battles, both internal and external. So make sure that you keep contemplating about the greatness of the Paramatma. You are fighting the war, or for anything else in any activity that we do. Let's make sure that we are continually contemplating on the greatness of Paramatma. The other objective that Krishna uses is Partha. And before we go there, I thought it was interesting. I just picked this. So how do I do that? How do I make sure that we are continually contemplating of Paramatma? And Krishna gives a very beautiful solution to it. Mahaivaite pnatah purvameva nimitta matram bhavasavyasachin. Know that you are just an instrument. If you have that anusandhana in your mind, it will perhaps become easy for you to contemplate about the greatness of Paramatma in everything that you do, and therefore you can make progress towards making all your karmas as Jnanamaya Yajnas. So then the other adjective that's used is Partha. So Partha, taken as a single word, Pa actually means Vedas that lead us to moksha, and the Artha of the Vedas, which is the Mukhya Pratipadya of the Vedas, is Narayana. So knowing the Mukhya Pratipadya of the Vedas, knowing Narayana, is what will resolve in, which will help in resolving all the karmas, which is what Krishna is saying by using the word Parisamapyate. And if we don't know, and if we just keep doing, we can program either Siri or Alexa to make sure that it plays Vishnu Sahasranama exactly 48 minutes before sunrise every day. It will keep doing it. But Alexa is going to remain Alexa, or Siri is going to remain Siri. There's going to be no progress whatsoever. So for us, knowing becomes all the more important. Partha also means the one who is Shastra Parangata. Like Tirtha, perhaps the one who has, crossed the ocean of ignorance and reached the other shore of knowledge. And this is important because one of the similes that Krishna uses later on in some of the shlokas, we'll touch upon that. Partha also means the protector of Vedas. It also means the one who has imbibed the Vedas, and of course, son of Prithu. So in this entire shloka, Krishna is calling Arjuna Parantapa. You are the one who have conquered the internal and external foes. Make sure you contemplate on the Lord in everything that you do, and know that when you make in all the efforts as Jnanamaya Yajnas, instead of just performing them as Dravyamaya Yajnas, you will definitely be on the right way towards moksha sadhana. And make sure that everything that you do all the karmas, howsoever ever trivial they may seem to be, each one of them is complete in its entirety. And when you do that, and while obtaining the right knowledge, all the karmas that you have done will reach their logical endpoint, which is resolution. They all will get parisamapya. So they'll all end in the logical way that they should be ending. So fundamentally, it is not Jnana Yoga versus Karma Yoga. It is both. It is Jnana with Karma and Jnana for Karma, and maybe again Karma with Jnana and Karma for Jnana. That seems to be the message that Krishna seems to be telling us with this shloka. With that, with your permission, GVG and Madhusudanji, we had said that we will make sure we'll try to stick to time. Would like to pause here and maybe we could touch upon some of the other shlokas in the next session.
That will be fine, Suresh ji. So thank you for taking us through this one, and then sorry to put you in the last some of the consequences.
Yeah.
So, but let us not lose everything or dilute anything. So we will, whatever we are prepared, we will carry it forward to the next session, and then take your time to kind of go through that one, and then we will have the Jai Krishna Nalamangala kind of give us the entire summary for that, and then his perspectives on Krishna's message. Okay, so I see that there are one question by Anandji in the chat one, and that is I think directed to Prakash. So Prakash, can you see the chat box and then see the question? It is about another interpretation for karmani akarmaya pashyata, karmani cha karmaya pashyata. So I want you to kind of maybe repeat that, and then maybe give give your response to that. So over to you, Prakash ji. You're on mute. Prakash, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So what Anandji, the first question is, another way of looking at action in inaction, and inaction in action is a doctrine of Nishkama Karma. See, Nishkama Karma, if you take, that alone is not enough. Because Nishkama can be practiced by atheists also. Because they also do many actions without any expectation of anything. They just do it. There are a lot of people like that. But our aim is even going further. Nishkamam Jnana Purvakam. Not only you are doing actions without any desires of the fruits, you are also doing Jnana Purvakam. That is, Hari is the independent doer. I am the dependent doer. I had to do Krishnarpanam. All the actions I had to submit to him. Everything is under his control. With all these things, with this knowledge, if you do, then only the action becomes complete. That is what is the karma swarupa. So, seeing action in action in inaction in action is just to see our dependence on the Lord and the Lord's independence. That is what is the whole idea there. So we are going one step ahead. That's what I would say there for the Nishkama Karma. Then the next one is desireless action falls under the heading of inaction because it produces no bondage. That is true. The action is, again, it's the same answer like before, because it is, if you don't have, see, the thing is, all action should be done as a puja to the Lord. You may do it, but if you're not doing it as a puja, still there is a bondage to that. Then the next one is refraining from action, akarma, can be defined as karma. If it is done due to selfish or malicious motivation, for example, if I see someone disturbed but selfishly decide not to help, I have performed no action, but still karma will accrue. See, that's again, this is a very subjective question in the sense that, for example, somebody who is a murderer, he comes and takes refuge in your home. The Shastra says, from whatever I know, that if somebody is in grave danger, even if he's a bad person, you have to give him refuge under you. So, suppose if somebody is in distress but they are not able to help, if that is your kartavya according to the situation, then definitely you have not done your duty. So yes, that is true. Again, it is a subjective thing. And the last one is it is the state of consciousness underlying the action or inaction that is significant rather than the physical deed itself. Of course, yes, that is what we are saying. The anusandhana, the attitude, the knowledge, like what we have been seeing so far. That knowledge is very, very important. The attitude is very important. Physical deed itself is now, if you do that, then we are reduced to the five sensed animals. So we have to have that attitude, the anusandhana, while doing any action. That is why, he says that even when you're sleeping, you have to have the anusandhana. Why? Because you are not doing it. Somebody else is doing it for you. So that is why the anusandhana is important. Yes, the state, the consciousness, being conscious, conscious about that is very, very important. So the physical deed itself is not the, it does not qualify for that. The physical deed is only the last thing. I hope I tried to answer the questions.
Thank you, Prakash ji. Thank you very much.
Anandji, if you want to continue, and then I don't know whether with what context that you approached it. So please, you are kind of welcome to.
What I know I shouldn't be asking such a question, because what is karma, akarma? Even the greatest of the seers are confused. Who am I? So my only understanding was in 19, 20, 21, 22, they all use very good words there, like kama sankalpa varjitaha, karma phala sangha, then tyakta sarva parigraha, yadruchala basantushta. I was thinking in those terms, maybe all these indicate that the desires, the fruits of action are binding us. When we do something without that bondage, although we have done, it becomes an inaction. That was my rough underestimate, but I thank all of you for clarifying all that. Thank you.
There's a couple of other thoughts I just wanted to share, Srinivasanji, if I may. So one is two other ideas I just wanted to share about karma. One is karma is kar. Kar means duty, right? Income tax. So we pay income tax for what you do and stuff. So we use the stuff of this world, which is Ishavasya, and you're paying tax to that. So that is one meaning of karma. So you have to pay tax. You're using something which does not belong to you, and you pay tax. The other one is if you take Padmanabhacharya's masterpiece on this particular verse, he brings in references from various aspects. He says karma also means dharma. Yeah, karma, in other words, it is also called dharma. And dharma is two, right? Dharma can be, Vishnu is dharma, and Vedas are also called dharma. Yeah. So if you take that link also, then it kind of fills in. And the third one I just wanted to remind all of us is never forget the 2-10-12 Srimad Bhagavatam that TSR always tells us. 2-10-12 Dravyam karmashcha kalashcha swabhavo jive javacha yad anugrahataha santi nasanti yadupekshaya. So let's never forget that even the karma may be eternal, but still it is dependent. So are all the other eternal entities. So let's not forget those things. Thank you, Srinivasanji.
Are there any other questions from anyone in the audience?
We got one from Pragnesh. But Pragnesh, go for it.
Just to add on to your taxation analogy, I was just thinking spontaneously that if you give it to charity, it can be tax exempt. So the actions which we are putting in feet of the Lord, they are exempt for the karma. Thank you.
Sure, and also let's not forget karma is a dravya. So in Srimad Acharya talks about what is this karma action. We have spoken so much about action and so on and so forth, right? But karma is a dravya. Where does that karmic imprints actually happen? The karmic imprints happen on the linga sharira. So whatever action that we do with our phalas, then there is an imprint that hits on the linga sharira. And we have had infinite previous lives, and we have collected so much imprints, as GVG was mentioning about that hyperlinks. Sureshji was mentioning, I can't forget who it was, the hyperlink analogy, Srinivasanji, I think the hyperlink analogy, which makes it very logical.
That was Prakash.
Prakashji, yes, thanks for reminding. So Heshu Prakashji was mentioning about the hyperlink thing. So there is so much karmic imprint. So that is also something that we need to think about. That karma is actually a dravya. It is something. It is an entity that is actually is kind of imprinted on our linga sharira, and that was determines when we what kind of deha that we acquire in the next birth, for example. So lots of stuff about karma. But yeah, let's not forget it is also a dravya.
Madhuri, it said that Jnanagni Sarva Karmani Bhasmasat Kurute Arjuna and Sarva Kilam Partha Jnane Parisamapyate. All these karmas end with the when you get proper knowledge and experiences, isn't it? That's what because I'm just basic, I don't know, like you all said, but from what we have learned from you, and I think you have been telling, and jnana and karma is one, and
Sure.
I'm just confused a little. Yeah.
Sure. I'm sure Srinivasanji, Prakashji, and Sureshji will have a lot of views on this. My only thing that I'll add there is because the karmic imprints are there in the Linga Sharira, there is no way in which we, by our own effort, we are going to be able to remove those Linga Sharira imprints that have happened in our Linga Sharira. And it has to happen through Jnana. What is that Jnana? Aparoksha Jnana. When you have that Aparoksha Jnana, that is when Paramatma will say, now I do your karma kshaya, the imprints on your linga sharira, I'm going to destroy. And now you do your prarabdha karma and come back, go to Satyaloka, sit there and come back to me, is how the logical sequence of our journey of souls completes there. So that is how I see that verse it kind of taking us through from Tattvavada's perspective. But I'll pass it on to other learned audience here to contribute.
Madhuji, just to
think
add, I think we will touch upon it in the next session, because verses 36 and 37 perhaps elaborate as to how do these karmic imprints disappear. What's the mechanism behind it? So I would just say maybe next session we'll touch upon the details about that.
Great stuff. So looks like we have no further questions. So I was just going to say, Srinivasanji, you wanted to comment?
No, I thank all the speakers today. So for coming prepared, I know it's been a lot of work in addition to their other works and everything. So again, I thank all the speakers for spending their time and then coming prepared. Hopefully it has been useful to them and for everyone else. So thank you so much. And then so next session we will continue to hear from Sureshji. So he will continue the remaining verses and then have a grand summary or a perspective from a scholar from Jai Krishna Nalamangala. And then maybe like if time permits, we will have a quiz as a form of another summary. So we will see how it goes. So the next session will be the last Sunday of August.
Fantastic, Srinivasanji. They look forward to that. So we carry on with our Chinthana. So we'll catch up again next Sunday, which is actually quite relevant. You're going to have this is about Dhyana Yuddha. So we're all this Jnana and Dhyana. How is that fight that is going to happen? Angirasa is going to use a bow and arrow and then explain to us as to how we're going to achieve that and how are we going to hit our target, which is that knowledge that we're going to talk about. So we'll pick that up from next week in the second kanda of the second mundaka, second verse. We'll pick that up. Okay, so on that note, Suresh, do you want to recite Om and then we close today's session?
Om.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.